All right, Max. So let's go ahead and talk about this snatch here. We'll go ahead and watch it together first. So first and foremost, absolutely love the energy that you brought into this. You definitely approached it like you were ready for it. You wanted it. You didn't have any doubts in your head, and that's excellent. But a couple things that I wanted to look at here to start. First and foremost is the setup position. Your hips, as you start to pull, are fairly low. Not the end of the world based off your build. I'm not sure if you're always pulling this low, but the big issue with the hips starting so low is that you're going to have to keep that chest up from the pull. So likely if your chest is up here and your hips are down, the bar is going to have to go out and around the knees as you keep your chest up. You'll see here what it forces you to do is bow forward and change that upper body angle. So the hips to the shoulders, this angle changes drastically as the bar goes from the ground to the knees, where you'd like to keep this angle here perfectly flat and unchanged as the bar goes from the ground to the knee position. So you'll see here quite a big change from about 45 to almost 90 degrees across. The other major thing that I'm seeing here too, probably because you were forced to pull your knees so far back out of the way to get as a result of your chest bowing, is that your legs are near locked out. You'd like to keep this position a little bit more bent, a little softer knee here, so you're a little bit loaded, keeping those quads a hair more loaded. So we can reference a lifter over here. You see he does set up with his hips fairly low based off his build. It's not the end of the world, as I mentioned. But so about here, one of these two, he begins to pull the bar off the ground. And you can see on the two different lifts, so the bar's off the ground, bar's off the ground. So I'm not sure, this could have been a hair forward. This is a hair later. But this back angle from here to here is very much the same. And still, as we're getting to the knee level, again, it's the same. So there's no bowing forward. He's not letting that chest drop. He's keeping that chest nice and tall. Regardless of if he keeps his hips down low or if you were to set up a hair higher, you'd want to keep that back angle unchanged throughout the first pull from the ground to the mid-knee level. The other thing you can see here, like I referenced just before, your legs are pretty locked out. There's a little soft bend. I think if you kept your chest a hair higher, you'd be able to get away with a little bit more of a bend in the knee position, creating a stronger athletic jumping position that you can see here. He's got a decent little bit of knee bend there as well as here. So even though the bar's at the knees, he's ready to extend his hips. There's that bend in the knee so he can get to this strong loaded power position. So if we keep going, you do reestablish it pretty well, but I think this could be, again, a hair more of a bend, a hair lower, which is going to be easier to fix if you had it in the correct position from the top of the knees. So going from the power position, which we are here, to the overhead, you pull your shoulders a good bit back. So here we go. Pretty hyper extended here and hyper arched. What I'd love to see is getting a little bit more straight vertical. Going from here, no. Going from about here, getting your shoulders straight up rather than super arched. Let's see if we can see it in this one. So you see here, he's getting that power position. He's loaded. So from here, he's loaded. he gets tall, pulls those shoulders to his ears, gets vertical rather than hyper extended. And then the very last thing, your catch, very strong, pretty stable overall. There was a little bit of a half step at the end there. I'm not sure if you always bounce out of the hole on your snatches. It was a max, it looks like, so sometimes it's not as pretty. But one thing I'd like to see is a little bit more stabilized, and be sure that you've got it and you know you've got it before you stand up. So don't rush out of the hole. Don't necessarily bounce out of the hole if you don't have to. Catch it, stay tight, and then stand up nice and tall. So again, main takeaways: keeping that bar, that back angle unchanged from the ground to the knees, then getting a nice strong power position going from the knees to the hips. Get that loaded power position so you can jump vertically rather than hyperextending. That should be quad dominated versus just ripping those shoulders back. Rather getting tall, pulling those shoulders to the ears, finishing nice and vertical, getting that bar going up to the ceiling rather than out and around. Again, overall, not bad. Excellent energy you brought into this lift, and you made it, so you can't really complain about that. But I think if we clean it up, you could get a good little bit more in you. So that's a little breakdown of your 285-pound snatch here. And typically from here, we would see if we can implement these things and then see how it goes.